What's nice about jumping is that whether you've never caught air before and we just want to experiment with maybe catching a foot of air, or if we're ready kind of for that next step of really progressing to really pushing through an obstacle and then maybe scrubbing an obstacle, jumping 50 feet, 100 feet, whatever it is essentially the same exact technique. The only thing that changes is the speed that you gain ahead of time. So what I teach will be applicable for everybody here. It also really applies to anytime you go over logs or rocks, and you're anytime you're catching even just, like I said, a tiny bit of air. So a couple of key things. It is the acceleration version of the attack position, which means we are going to be a bit more extended with the leg, hinging at the hips, having the head go forward. That is how we're going to approach. Everybody here, for the most part today, we're going to work on soaking up. So I guess we should probably start there. There's two ways to hit a jump. You have soaking up and scrubbing, and then you have preloading and seat bouncing. It's the same movement, but it's timed differently. So we're gonna focus on soaking up. So the soak up is acceleration attack position on the entry, which is straight leg, head forward. As you get going up the transition and right before as you're cresting the takeoff, so right when the front tire basically goes airborne, you're just very naturally letting that bike come up to you. It's the same movement I would use on a BMX bike at a pump track, on a mountain bike, hitting jumps on a mountain bike. It's the same exact thing. The knees stay back for the most part, and the head stays forward. There are exceptions on short and steep jump faces. If you're scrubbing something, you can let the knees come forward. But for today, let's try to keep still the knees stacked on top of the foot pegs best we can. Scrubbing is really the same exact movement, but we're just letting the bike also deflect to the side to deflect the rebound of the suspension off to the side a little bit as we go off the takeoff. And a scrub, believe it or not, can be really applicable to a vet rider maybe. So somebody that, if they come to this track here and they only have interest in hitting 2 or 3 of the jumps, the other 7 or 8 jumps they don't have interest in, you can just get really good at that little quick twitch of a scrub movement to just be effective at keeping those wheels on the ground and keeping that power driving forward. Instead of being the guy that just for no reason jumps to no man's land and smacks down every single time, right? A few other big things: gain the speed ahead of time. The more beginner and experienced you are, less experienced you are, the taller gear you need to be in. So the less confidence you have with jumping, the taller gear you need to be in. Does that make sense? Is that clear for everybody? Because that detail in itself is super, super important. The taller gear you're in, it doesn't equal more speed, it equals more linear power and easier to control power. So you won't have such a happy wrist, right? So shift that thing up. If you think you could clear a jump in first or second gear, yeah, your bike probably could do it, but instead go to third or fourth. Let that bike maybe lug a little bit more, lower RPM. Get that speed well ahead of time, and then the goal is just maintain consistent throttle all the way off the best we can. As you get faster and faster, there's some situations where we'll coast jump faces. There's some situations where we'll even hit the brakes front and rear going up jump faces. But the most consistent thing you guys can do is just smooth throttle all the way off. Head forward. When you get into the air, it's important that we pinch shoulder blades and drive the head further forward yet again. And what that'll do is that'll keep the bike on the perfect arc of a trajectory that we want. Common mistakes is riders, as soon as they go airborne, do this. Knees sink forward, arms extend, head comes back. And what that creates is basically you'll look like Ronnie Mack, where the back end will just float forever. As long as the jump is. So if it's a 10-foot jump, you'll be lucky because you'll just float for a little bit and hit. If it's a huge jump, you'll just continue to float until you find the ground, which isn't a great feeling. And not only will it float this way, but it will also kind of float out from underneath you sideways as well. So the thing you're most afraid of, basically, will happen when the head comes back. It's super unnatural for us when we go up the jump face to keep the head as far forward as it actually needs to be. Where riders and the pros experience it would be a guy that's not doesn't have practice yet in supercross whoops, right? Because in supercross whoops, you enter and then you do what? Oh crap, oh, this is scary. And you push the bike away from you, extend your arms, get off the back, and then really the only way to go from there is to then miss a whoop, drop the front, and then you're going directly over the front, which is where you didn't want to go in the first place. Oh hey, didn't see you there. Before we get back to this video, we're sponsored by Element. You better believe it. And when you guys are at the beach in your gear, it tends to happen from time to time. You really want to make sure that you are hydrating the right way. Element is an electrolyte mix that is the best electrolyte mix I've ever had. I've been using it for the past couple of years. I've experimented with, you name it, I've tried it, and I was never fully hydrated. It was horrible. I would get headaches and I would cramp like nobody's business. So if you guys get hand cramps, if you get Charlie horses, I'm talking like I'd get a Charlie horse in my calf and then I'd go try to save my calf and my whole leg would lock up and next thing you know, my whole body is just contorted. It's really bad. If you mix electrolytes in, so if you have sodium, potassium, magnesium, all the important electrolytes, that will not happen. Go to drinklmnt.com/AJCat330. You can try 8 flavors for free with your order. I promise you this stuff is amazing. They're the only person we partner with on this YouTube channel because it's that good. It's got everything you need, nothing you don't, no sugar, no artificial flavors, and all the flavors are so good too. This is watermelon. Been drinking a lot of grapefruit lately. They're all just chef's kiss, delicious. drinklmnt.com/AJCat330. Go get some. Back to the video. Right, so keep that head forward the whole time. I demonstrated it over there a handful of times when I was doing that little track transfer, jumping across over the track, if anybody saw that. Kind of landing on the flat just to demonstrate. When I land, hopefully you picked up on this, I'm keeping strong legs, using my legs as suspension, which means you have to resist the impact. So many people think you're supposed to land a jump and go down with the bike. That's not how suspension works, right? Suspension is resisting that so that there's tension and progressive compression of that suspension. Does that make sense? So the way that I teach, quite honestly, is to land just barely front tire first, keep the legs strong and tight, and that's it. What will naturally happen if you have strength in your legs is you will go through an appropriate amount of your body's suspension travel, whatever that is. You do not have to try to absorb. If you try to absorb, you're going to be the person that just bottoms out, butt hits the seat, and now our feet are getting blown off, right? Definitely try to land front tire first, though, if we can. That is a misconception. When you watch Supercross, if you really know what you're looking for, you'll catch it all the time. I saw it this weekend. There was a rhythm section right before the finish where Jet and Tomac were going 3-3, right? Was that right before the finish? Yes. And the second 3 had a weird transition to where it was like small to big, so the landing was a little bigger, and you saw multiple times where both Jet and Hunter cased it. And what do? They pull the clutch in, tap the rear brake, hit front tire first. And that way they kind of would skim across it. With that steep of a landing, if they had landed front end up, that would have been a big no-no. That would have immediately tossed you over the bars, right? Anything you want to add jumping-wise?
It's pretty straightforward.
Honestly, the rule of thumb is like, just do less. I think so many people get to the jump and they're like, oh, I got to just do all of these crazy things. Or I got to like bunny hop it or pull up or whatever it is. Just get in your attack position and just do less. Because if we stay here, the bike is naturally going to come to you on the takeoff, right? And then it's naturally going to give you a little bit, you're going to go through that body suspension travel when you land as well. It's the riders that are always trying to throw in that extra little bit that isn't necessary. Yes. Do you want to mention that?
No, you can do it.
So this is probably, along with the body position of pushing the bike away from you, this is probably the most common mistake that I see is the rider that comes in with not quite enough speed because they're just not confident yet. And then they rely on that last second little blip of throttle, right? That last second blip of throttle is what's going to create, most likely, either wheel spin last second or a ton of traction that you didn't necessarily want last second. And then we're going to get a kick. And the bad part about the kick when you do that last second blip is who knows which way it's going to kick you, right? We could get kicked into an endo, front end high, to the side. We need to keep that power as smooth as possible. Parents, do we have blippers here? Top of jump face blippers? Anybody that we have to watch out for? Okay. Nobody's being honest today because I bet you half of this class is going to do it. Nice and smooth. The reason that happens is because you guys don't have the confidence yet to approach with the speed that you need. And the speed that you need typically needs to be way faster than what feels right. The only thing, I can't relate to this in motocross because I've been jumping for so long that it all feels so natural, but I used to snowboard all the time. And when I would snowboard, I would get that feeling in the pit of my stomach as I'd be approaching a jump, and I'd be like, nope, this is too fast. This is too fast. And then it would cause me to like carve one more time or two more times. And then as soon as I would get airborne on the jump, I'd be like, ah, gosh darn it, not enough. And just land right on the deck, right on top, right? How many of you guys do that in Moto maybe, where your instinct is like, nope, this is too fast. And then you just live in that 3/4 zone. And that 3/4 zone, guess what that is? That's the bounce zone. So the 3/4 zone, where that bounce zone is, means you're probably gonna compress and unload, and you're gonna end up bouncing all the way past the landing to the flat. And that bounce zone is the worst spot you can land. Not only do people land in the bounce zone, sometimes they live there, lap after lap after lap. And it's like, man, if you just jumped 3 more feet, you would be at the downside. But they're landing in the bounce zone a little bit front end high, or both tires at the same time, and it creates this big ricochet of just an impact. Makes it 10 times worse. It sounds and looks like you're getting dropped from a 10-story building. So let's avoid that.